yet you comfort me. Father, renew me. You are all I need. Holy Spirit, fall on me. Heal me, fill me, make me whole. You are so worthy, yet you died for me. Holy and almighty, by your blood I am free. You are so worthy, yet you died for me. Holy and almighty, by your blood I am free. Holy Spirit, fall on me. Heal me, fill me, make me whole.
Hello, it's Bill Donahue at Discerning Truth. I get so into here worshiping and praying, waiting for the song to end, that I almost forgot to turn on the hit the button and switch to go live. I did catch that I'm not muted. Very good. So if you're new here, my name is Bill Donahue, better known as Donahue Papa on a lot of places. But I always try to start off with giving some information. Today we're going to be looking at, does the Bible teach that the earth is a flat, immovable object? Is that what the Bible teaches? Because if it does, that's what I want to believe, right? And before we get into our study, this is my contact information. Like I said, if you're going to send me anything via snail mail, they use sea snails to get over here to Kauai, but make sure you include the suite 1300 and number 164 on there. That's a private mailbox I use here for my mail in Hawaii. Just don't expect me to get it in a few days. The mail takes a while to get here for whatever reason. And the easiest way to get a hold of me is bill@discerningtruths.com. Understand, I will answer any questions on my email. I'm not really looking for debates, and I don't have time for that. But if you have a legitimate question, I'll gladly answer it. And I appreciate the emails. It lets me know you're listening. My replays are all available on CloudHub. I provided a link up there, but you can go into CloudHub, search for channel 217 or Bill Donahue, Discerning Truths. You find it. Just subscribe, and then you can go back and look through all my videos that are up there. We're at video 264 today, so there's a few subjects I've hit. And then I have been uploading on Rumble. I may start broadcasting on Rumble soon. I will be on Foxhole probably as soon as this Monday. I just got my channel approved today. I just didn't have time to turn it on before we went live today. When I do Foxhole, I'll probably pull the trigger on Rumble at the same time. You can catch me on Twitter and YouTube. And but the most important thing is my notes at the end of every show. I create a PDF and I post it on the Discerning Truths group on Telegram. You can go back and look at my notes. You can examine what I've done. Look the verses up for yourself and make your own mind up as to what the truth is. I broadcast Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Pacific time. I'm typically doing a book of the Bible on Monday, Wednesday. Right now we're in the Gospel of John. For those of you that have been with me for any length of time, you know when I went through Isaiah, I took almost a year going through Isaiah. I'm not zooming through these books. I'm trying to dive into them so you get a deeper understanding than you're going to get in a cursory look at it. My show is not for everybody. If you just want a lot of rah-rah and encouragement and stuff, I'm not your guy. If you want to dig deep, this is the place to go. And then on Fridays, I look at subjects that I don't think they'll teach you in church or they won't touch. I've been going through Bible myths for the last few Fridays and myths that are not taught in the Bible. Some that came out of the Da Vinci Code and Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Today I'm going to look at the claim that the Bible teaches that the earth is a flat, immovable object. And then on Tuesdays, I join my friend Neil over on her program. She broadcasts Central Time, usually about 10:20, 10:25 Central Time. She comes on and I join her 15, 30 minutes into her show. And we usually talk for about an hour on a wide variety of subjects. And then I start my day with my good friend, Michael Beatty, Miguel California to many of you. Singer, songwriter extraordinary, has turned into quite the little graphic artist, and now God has just opened up another gift, being faithful with one gift, gave him another one to be able to bring the Bible to life. And he's going through the book of Ruth, and it was what a great study that you're doing. On Sunday, his wife Linda joins him, and going through Psalms. I can't wait. In April, I'm going to be back in California for a little bit, and I'm going to get to go out to dinner with Michael and Linda. We haven't seen them in forever. And like I said, I keep promising a Prophet Club. It's going to come when it comes. I thought I'd have it done in January. We're now March, right? It's like Michael teased me it'll be done in July, but I'll get the Prophet Club done when I get a chance, Sorry about the delay. And like I said, if you just tuned in, today we're looking at, does the Bible teach a flat earth? That the earth is flat and immovable? Is there some kind of satanic conspiracy to convince us that the Bible or the earth is round and moving? Did that come out of the occult and the New World Order and satanic world control? Is that where that idea came from? While the Bible is teaching a flat domed earth that's immovable. And I got to tell you, I must admit, I was initially thought I was being pranked when this issue came to my attention, because I had heard people like astronomer Danny Faulkner out of Answers in Genesis. I had heard him talk about that he was dialoguing with people who believed in a flat earth. And I just thought, why, Danny? Whatever. It never interested me enough to even look at the evidence or whatever that they were claiming was evidence, because this just seemed to be so out there that it never got my attention. And then it was presented in this format, that the flat earth is the Bible version and the round earth is Satan's version. That interests me. That took me from not caring about the subject to, well, let's take a look at it, right? And I often put up this chart. I haven't done it in a while. This chart was created by Michael Patton over at Credo House. And he used it to help people understand where the fights are. This issue about whether the Earth is flat or round, whether it's moving or stationary, is there a geocentric model or a heliocentric model of the universe? That's not in the center circles. That doesn't matter for your salvation. You doesn't matter for your position as historic Christian orthodoxy or traditional Christian orthodoxy. I don't even know a denomination that holds that you have to be there. I don't think it's important, but it, it's kind of hard to call things not important, but not important theologically, right? And then, this is clearly in the outer circles, and I'm okay if you want to say it's important but not essential, or not important or pure speculation, but it's clearly not something Christians should be dividing over, right? And I want to make sure we do this, even though in reality, I'm not going to deal so much with the science today. Okay, I'll deal a little bit, but the science is not the issue that's here. What interests me in this question is twofold. Does the Bible teach this, that the earth is flat and stationary? Because that's a claim that's either true or false. I can prove or disprove that, and that's in my wheelhouse. That's my field of expertise. But the other thing that has interested me in the last couple of years is there's a disconnect between the levels of proof that people need when an idea fits their biases than when the idea conflicts with their bias. Okay? And in recent years, many people that I've met who had their eyes open to the evils in the world described themselves as having been red-pilled, from the movie The Matrix or whatever that we're talking about, having their eyes open and they're doing it. And they've discovered that a lot of what they've been taught in life has been lies. But instead of, it develops a inherent distrust of anything from the government or science or institutions in general. But what I've noticed and what fascinates me is that many of these same people have developed a willingness to believe outrageous claims on the slimmest of evidence if those claims are attached to the claim that these other groups lied to them about it, right? And now, I also notice that these people that will buy into these theories with almost no evidence require extraordinary levels of evidence to debunk their claims. Okay? They'll either default to the position that the opposition evidence is just fabricated, or they butt their head against it. And I just find that fascinating, because to me, once you figure it out that you've been lied to a lot, it ought to put you in a default position of a skeptic. Skeptic about everything. Question everything. Question everyone. But that's not what I find. I find people that are willing to believe. Now, I got to do a little public disclosure here, because I encourage my listeners to examine their own positions to identify any existing confirmation biases we all have and presuppositions that we have. And I got to admit that I find the supposed proofs of the flat earth proponents to be so inane and so bad Bible exegesis and so bad at their evidence that it was hard for me to take them serious. I'm coming at, and I try to take their claims seriously and not be condescending to them in my responses, and to do this. And I feel like I may have failed in that, because I'm telling you, I'm not hiding my hand here. I consider this to be just absolute drivel. Bible exegesis on the level of a second grader, and science at the same level. Okay? This is horrible. So when it came into my inbox, I contacted my two brothers and asked them, had any of them heard of this evidence and what had they looked into it, right? Yeah, there are two more weirdos, not exactly like me, but both of my brothers will chase down rabbit trails and do stuff and investigate things to the nth degree. And neither one of them had done it because they said they had the same reaction I did. That they thought they were being pranked when this came up, that nobody can really believe this. And so I didn't have people close to me that had done it. And I had remembered, like I said, I haven't talked to Danny Faulkner in years, but we used to have an ongoing conversation. And I knew he was spending time to do it, and I found his videos on YouTube, but his first video was mostly a sales pitch for the rest of the videos. So I didn't even have time looking through a lot of his videos. Now, I did find Eric Dubay wrote a book called 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. And these are supposedly his evidence for him. And then what I always look for is once you read somebody's proofs, you look for the counter evidence. Did somebody rebut them? And I found rebuttals to these proofs on the link I provided, right? In this flat Earth area, and it's in the rebuttals. And this guy takes all of the 200 claims, and then provides you links to scientific experiments that refute it. Links that explain why they misunderstand the science that they're talking about, that they don't understand the difference between water seeking its own level and the idea that water may hold to a round Earth and have an equal amount of pressure on it and not level as in a flat line. They don't understand what it takes to fly planes at high altitudes. There's a lot of stuff here that he'll provide links to that are helpful. You want to look that up, you're more than welcome. It's not the purpose of this stream. I'm not here to debunk the junk science. I'm not here to do this. What I'm looking for or looking at, the only scientific claims I'm going to give you are stuff that you can examine with your own eyes. You don't need any special training, any special knowledge, and you could debunk the flat Earth theories in 5 minutes. Okay? The moon is the first bit of evidence that I'm going to look at. And we all can make 5 observations of the moon. The moon is round, right? Even flat Earth proponents agree the moon is a sphere, right? In fact, the sun, the stars, and other planets can be viewed as a sphere. And I have a little meme for this, and I just thought it was funny, but I just want you to understand, this meme has the little Earth as a square floating around out with all the other round planets. And not to take them to discount their position too much, but this is really the ridiculous nature of their claims. And I'm going to leave that meme up for a second. So just understand with the moon on the Earth, right? Actually, let me go back to the slide. Let's do it this way. It'll be easier for you. No matter where you are on the Earth, the moon appears the same size. But if the moon was rotating around the equator or North Pole, depends on which flat Earth model you think it does, right? It would appear different sizes the further north or south you go, but the moon appears the same size whether it's viewed from the equator or the uttermost north or the uttermost south. It is the same size. Now, they claim that the moon is about 3,000 miles above the Earth. If it were, from the time it came up and crossed across the sky and went down, it would change size by about 40%. Okay? It would get increasingly larger throughout the night and then increasingly smaller. That doesn't happen because the moon is 250,000 miles away. The difference from any point on the Earth to the moon in a straight line is only about 18 miles. That's such a minor difference. That's why the moon appears the same size, because it's not 3,000 miles away. It's such a long distance away that the difference in our perspective is minimal, right? And so this is what you can observe. And those are the first two things you can know about the moon. And those two things alone should be able to show you that the flat Earth claims about where the moon is in relation to the Earth are false, right? The moon always rises above the horizon in the east and moves to the west across the sky and then drops below the horizon on the west, but remains the same size the whole way across the sky. And like I said, the moon would be 40% larger as it crossed the sky. It would also never go below the horizon because your observation viewing point would always keep the lowest the moon would ever get is about 14% above the horizon on either side. The moon would always be visible and never go below the horizon if the flat Earth model were correct. Okay? And no matter where we're on the Earth, we always observe the same side of the moon. Okay? And the orientation. Our orientation of that side changes from where we're standing, but the same side shows up. So here's the flat Earth rebuttal to this. They said it's like stick a picture to the ceiling of your room, move around the room, your observation of the picture, your perspective changes, but the picture doesn't. The problem is the moon isn't flat. Even they admit it's round. Now take a basketball and paint in between each of the lines of the basketball a different color. Cut it in half and screw the basketball to the ceiling and walk around the room, and you're going to see different colors. You're going to see different sides of the basketball because it's not two-dimensional, it's three-dimensional. Do you understand this? So the fact that we see the moon the same side, no matter if you're in South America, North America, Africa, Europe, and on any given night you take a picture of the moon, you will always see the same side of the moon. And that would not be true if the Earth were flat and the moon was 3,000 miles above us. Do you understand this? Okay? So you don't need to be a scientist. You don't need any special equipment. You can do that from your own observations. Okay? The moon has a circular shadow on it that moves across the face of the moon during each lunar month. You get a full moon, a partial moon, half moon. You can see that circular shadow on the moon. The shadow is not flat. If the shadow is caused by the Earth, and the Earth's shadow moved across here, you get a flat line, or depending on what shape you think the bottom of the Earth is. Some of them have like jagged dirt underneath there, but that's the shape of that shadow. But the shadow is round, indicating what's casting that shadow is round. Okay? Now, their counter to this is that there's a shadowy object that nobody's ever seen that is so close to the sun that it's that shadowy object that's casting the shadow on the moon, not the Earth. So this, when a hypothesis needs to invent something, like something that nobody's ever seen, nobody's ever experienced. You can't even infer it from any scientific experience. You come up with this idea to explain in a phenomenon. That means the problem is not that the phenomenon's wrong, but your theory is wrong. When naturalists try to create the Big Bang to counter out the God created the world, they found out they don't have enough matter or enough energy to do that Big Bang. So they came up with this idea called dark matter that accounts for more than 90% of the universe. Dark matter has never been observed, detected, even inferred in nature. It's not there. But their model doesn't work without it. So the naturalists invented out of whole cloth dark matter and dark energy. That's exactly what the flat earthers do. They can't explain the shadow on the moon if the Earth is not round. So they invent out of whole cloth this shadowy object and they say that the reason that you can't see it is because it's so close to the sun, that shadowy object, that you can't see. Okay? The next thing that I'm going to talk to you about is the Coriolis effect, and that's because I did long-range shooting and very long-range shooting for years. My eyes were going. I don't do as much of it as I used to anymore. But when you do long-range shooting, there's a thing called the Coriolis effect. and it's caused by the rotation of the Earth. It is a very minor impact on bullets that are fired short distances. But when you fire in very long ranges, 1,000 meters or longer, and the flight time of the bullet is such that the Coriolis effect, you have to add a correction into your bullet drop calculations to account for it. And what's funny is in the northern hemisphere, when you fire the bullet spins off to the right. And in the southern hemisphere, it spins off to the left. You see the same thing in the storms, right? The storms in the northern hemisphere spin to the right, and the storms in the southern hemisphere spin to the left. That's the Coriolis effect. It is tested. The basis of science is replicable experiments. This claim of the Coriolis effect is tested by thousands of shooters firing tens of thousands of rounds every year and has never failed to be true. This would not be in effect if the Earth were flat and immovable. Okay? So this is crazy. Now, my next thing is you'll have to use your own examples because I'm using Hawaii and the fact that I'm blessed by living here. My home's about 400 feet above sea level, but close to the beach. We look out towards Oahu, but Oahu is 100 miles away, and I can't see it. Even with a 1,000-power spotting scope, I cannot see Oahu on any given day. But when there are certain atmospheric conditions, a mirage of Oahu shows up on the water on the horizon. Now, Oahu's not sinking and disappearing for days or weeks or whatever and then coming back up and suddenly happening. This idea of these mirages showing up, they've been documented many times. There's cities been photographed across the lakes from Chicago, things that are too far to see that suddenly on certain days you can spot them. Okay, and you getting a special camera doesn't let you see these. I'm telling you, I use a 1,000-power spotting scope. You cannot see Oahu. Okay, it's just over 100 miles from here. It does not show up, but then it does show up occasionally. And the reason it does show up is a refraction, and that what the flat earthers do is they will take pictures of cities that you shouldn't be able to see that are beyond your normal vision, and then not account for light refraction, and then claim that proves their thing. And this shouldn't say Miami Canyon, it's Waimea Canyon. I'll fix that as we're going. So on the other side of the island, as I go north and west on this island, Niihau is only like 17 miles away from the northwest corner. So as soon as you're on the south side, or the southwest side, as soon as you're on the south side heading west, you can see the mountains on top of Niihau. I mean, it's visible out there. And it's probably 25 miles when I first see it. But I only see the upper part of Niihau. And doesn't matter how close I get to Niihau, I don't see the whole thing. But if I back up and I go up the mountain from Niihau and go up Waimea Canyon to where I get a higher elevation and changes the angle I look at, now being further from Niihau, I can see the beach on Niihau. That makes no sense if the earth is flat, that moving further away lets you see something. Okay? It does make sense if the earth is curved and that portion of Niihau that I can't see from the beach is below the horizon. But when I get higher elevation, I'm now looking over the horizon and can see the beach again. Make sense? So I have this. And if you have something in your area that is a large enough object that you can see from miles away, and you have the ability to change your elevation to look at it, you can prove this yourself. You don't need scientific training. You don't need some special camera. You don't need any certain evidence to do this. You can test this yourself and prove that the earth is not flat. Okay? So that's the end of my little science rant because, like I said, I try to stick to what I know. And what I know is the Bible. That's where my expertise is, and that's where we're going to go. So the question comes up, does the Bible teach the earth is a flat, immovable object? And I'll give you some of the proof text. Deuteronomy 13:7, Job 28:24, Jeremiah 16:19, Psalm 48:10, Proverbs 30 verse 4, all speak of the ends of the earth. But rather than understanding that this is a metaphor, which it clearly is, talking about the uttermost parts of the earth, the ends of the earth, you can look up those passages. They're all metaphors. I've talked to you guys at nauseum about not taking the Bible hyper literally because it's not the way it's written. I've given you proof after proof that that's the case, right? The flat earthers outdo even the most literalist fundamentalists, and they do it. So I'm going to just look at Proverbs 30 verse 4 to prove my point. It says, "Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the winds in his fist? Who has wrapped the waters in a garment? Who has established the ends of the earth?" So clearly, God is the spirit. He does not have fist, right? Doesn't have a body, doesn't have fist. This is a metaphor, right? God as a spirit doesn't need a garment. He doesn't have garments to wrap up the waters with either. So now we have one metaphor followed by a second metaphor. But when you get to the establishment, the end of the earth, suddenly we're going to take that portion of this sentence and say it's literal. Okay? This is ridiculous. This is why I have a hard time taking these people seriously. And I know some people are dead serious about this subject, and I don't mean to be insulting you or condescending. I can't help it because this is stupid beyond belief. Okay? Let's just go. Sorry. Isaiah 11:12, Ezekiel 7:2, Revelation 7:1, and Revelation 20 verse 8 all speak of the four corners of the earth. Therefore, the earth must be square, like that meme I showed you, right? But Proverbs 8:27, Job 26:10, and Isaiah 40:22 said the earth is a circle. Now, sometimes that word circle can mean a sphere, or it could mean a circle like a coin, okay? And when you try to tell them that Job describes the earth as being a sphere hung upon nothing, they will point that out. In the Hebrew, that word can also mean like circle, like a flat coin. So I'm not saying that the Bible demonstrably states the earth is a sphere, but in two instances, you got the Bible describing the earth having corners and the Bible describing the earth being a circle. Both can't be true because circles don't have corners if you take them literally like that. But the four corners of the earth are like the ends of the earth. It's the same kind of idiom. It's an expression, okay? And if you want to take this real literally, Job 38:13 says the earth has a skirt. So now just picture in your mind a square or flat earth with a skirt hanging off of it. Okay? This is crazy. You know, where do you want? Is the earth a square? Is it a circle? Does it wear a skirt? And this is why I have a hard time taking people credible that say, the person in my recent discussion said, I've been looking into this for 3 years and I can't find any refutation to their point of view. None of these took me more than a few minutes. Okay? Psalm 74:12 and 14, taken literally, would also indicate that God goes slay sea monsters. Does anybody think that's the case? Now, I've taught in a previous stream about Leviathan and Behemoth, about being chaos monsters that are used in the Bible as basically a metaphor for evil. And it talks about them, and God actually puts hooks in their jaws, goes fishing for them, guts them, and if you pay attention, it's Leviathan's what you eat at the marriage supper of the Lamb. Okay? It's your food, so look forward to that banquet. Okay? You want to take that literally? That's the kind of nonsensical biblical interpretation you're going to come to. Okay? 2 Samuel 22:14, Psalm 18:13, Psalm 29:3 and 4, 77:18, Job 37, 4 to 14, Job 49, and Revelation 14:2 all say God's voice is like thunder. Do any of you hear God's voice during a storm? Is that what you think God really sounds like? It's thunder? Is that how you interpret that? Or do you understand that to be talking about God's voice coming across as a big booming voice? That it wasn't some still quiet voice in those experiences, that it came across like thunder. Okay? If you understand that, you're a better exegetical student of the Bible than any of the flat earthers, because they don't. Okay? Now, Psalm 93:1, Psalm 104:5, Job 38:4, and 1 Chronicles 16:30, and 2 Samuel 22:16 all speak of earth being immovable or built upon a foundation. And if you're built on a foundation, foundations aren't usually movable, so that implies immovability. Okay? When you look up those verses, it's clear they're metaphors. Okay? But you also have the problem that Psalm 18:7, 75:3, and Isaiah 41:5 describe the earth as tottering, reeling, trembling. So which is it, you hyper-literalist flat earthers? Is the earth solid and on a foundation and unmovable, or does it move, totter, and reel, and shake? Because the Bible says both. If you take passages hyper-literally, you end up with creating conflicts in the scripture that don't exist. And this is the same kind of nonsense critics of the Bible do to say there's contradictions in the Bible. Okay? But these are supposedly Christians defending God's word, and this is what they do to the scripture. Okay? Job 26:11 says that the pillars, even the pillars of heaven, I didn't go over the pillars of earth, but it talks about earth having pillars too. Supposedly holds up that firmament, right? But even the pillars of heaven tremble. So if you take this and other passages literally, you got to imagine heaven's a physical place held up by pillars, right? And that they're, even heaven shakes from that. Okay? Ecclesiastes 1:5 describes the sun rising and setting, so that can't possibly be phenomenological language, right? It must be describing a geocentric model of the universe. Are you kidding me? The Bible does a lot of descriptions of things in a phenomenological point of view. We still speak of the sunrise and sunset in our language today because it's the way we observe it. It doesn't mean that there's a geocentric model of the universe, right? And now that we know something about Einstein's theory of relativity, everything, the motion of everything is relative to the other. It's kind of hard to argue for or against either model because we're all moving. But the Earth is moving around the sun and the moon around the Earth, but not on a flat plane like you normally see it drawn. It's a pretty beautiful animation of the world as it moves. Job 37:18 says that the sky is hard like metal. Okay? The entire context leading up to 18 talks about balancing the clouds or making the earth stand still because of the south wind, because the south wind blows the earth around apparently, right? But this is all metaphor. The entire passage is metaphor. It's only when we get to the metaphor about the sky being hard like a metal that suddenly these people that are proof texting a nonsensical theory will say that says the sky is hard like metal. The Bible teaches it, right? There's a big old metal dome over the earth. This is why I had such a hard time tackling this subject, because I can't even force myself to take these people seriously because their arguments are all this bad. Okay? Now, here's one of their arguments to prove the earth is flat. Matthew 4:8. And again, the devil took him, Jesus, to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. Right? Now, I want you to understand that if the earth is a sphere, I don't care if you go to the top of Mount Everest, you cannot see all the kingdoms of the world. Right? So this is their argument, that you're not even going to see all the kingdoms in Asia from Mount Everest, and you're certainly not going to see Africa, South America, North America from that point of view. I don't care how strong a telescope you have, you're going to, if it's a sphere. So if I'm going to take this verse literally, that somehow Satan found a mountain in Israel that was tall enough to show him all the kingdoms of the world, then I got to tell you that the Bible is wrong, because they couldn't even see all the kingdoms of the ancient world if you stuck Everest in Israel. Okay? And I'm not sure how they managed to see the kingdoms of the past that had fallen, or the kingdoms of the future that hadn't even risen yet from that high mountain. This is so obviously a metaphor for Satan basically telling Jesus, worship me and I can give you all this stuff, right? That nobody in their right mind is going to take this literally, that I know of. No Bible scholar that I know of takes this literally. But flat earthers do, and thinks it's proof that the Bible teaches the earth is flat. Now, to show you how ridiculous this is, Daniel 4:11 describes a tree that not only grew all the way up to heaven, but it filled the whole earth. So, okay, you hyperliteralists, where can I find this tree? Even if they cut it down, where's the stump? Right? I know that thing that looks like a tree stump in Australia, right? You know, that giant tree stump is probably it. But this is what it describes. This is a dream. This is imagery. It is not to be taken literally. Genesis 11:4 in the Tower of Babel story describes the Tower of Babel reaching up to heaven. How high is that dome in your theory? Right? At least some proponents put it at 31 miles above the earth. Okay? That's one tall skyscraper in the Tower of Babel, because Burj Khalifa is the tallest building today in the world, and it's less than half a mile tall. But this is 31 miles, right? That's 62 times as tall as the tallest modern structure in the world, if you're going to take this. But this couldn't possibly be hyperbole, because these hyperliteralists will tell you the Bible doesn't use hyperbole, but I can show you it uses hyperbole all over the place. Okay? This is nonsense. I'm telling you, my best description of this is a coloring book level of biblical exegesis. It's horrible, right? So my question is, why would anybody believe this nonsense? And there are people that are otherwise smart. And this AA, not AA number, it is a number. Or there are a number of myths being spread around the community. Okay? And I'm describing a community that describes yourselves as red-pilled. Okay? If you're saying that you're awake to the truth. But in that community are a lot of myths that are being spread around that are just as ridiculous, maybe more ridiculous than this. You know, the reptilians and other stuff that's being spread around is nonsense. And this is the phenomenon I find most fascinating. What is it about human nature that when some people find out they've been lied to on so many things, and I agree we have been lied to on a lot of stuff. I don't think history is what we've been taught. I think there's a lot of stuff that is been fabricated. But that just makes me be skeptical about everything. Why would you suddenly be buying into things with very, very thin levels of proof? It took me more research to debunk the Khazarian myth and some of the other myths I've looked at than it did the flat earth. This is so obviously bogus. It took almost no time at all. Now, I've dealt with other unsubstantiated myths. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. So please, in the three flat earthers, don't take me literally. There's not an iceberg with a point that I'm at the tip of. Okay? There are false prophets spreading hope and claiming that they got their information from God. Ram God. Boy, sorry. I did proofread these. And if you're new to me, I'm the worst typist and worst proofreader known to man. I only catch things when I'm live on the air. But it seems that no many times their predictions of these false prophets have failed, people are still listening to them. Then there were a bunch of anonymous people claiming that they could decode encrypted messages. And I don't want to mention it out loud because I'm on YouTube and I'll get another strike, okay? But you know what I'm talking about. You know, some of those people that were posting anonymously claiming they could break the code have been wrong so many times. I'm not sure why anybody would believe them anymore, okay? Now, I'm painting a broad brush. There are some people that were more cautious with their predictions, and I'm not trying to put everybody there. But you know who they are. The people that made all kinds of predictions that this was going to happen on this day, that election was going to turn out a certain way, that this military was coming, that whatever their predictions were, they've all proven wrong. When somebody has proven themselves not to be a credible witness, why would you believe him? But that's exactly what we find in this community, is that this stuff gets spread, right? And when those drops stopped, gotta let you catch up with me. When the drop stopped from that certain letter, many of the Anons needed something to talk about because they had streams put on and they needed something every day. And many of them shifted to theology or supposedly hidden history. The serpent seed doctrine got a new twist where they were actually reptilians, okay? The serpent seed doctrine, if you're not familiar, was that Adam had sex with Eve and created Cain, okay? Their idea is that there's actually a race of hybrid reptilians on the earth that came out of here. Lilith shifted from being part of Middle Eastern mythology to being an actual reptilian, okay? We supposedly have special forces killing reptilians and engaging in nuclear war in tunnels far further underground than the deepest mine in the world. Now, when you run across these claims and you ask them how they're managing to deal with the temperatures and pressures that would happen at that kind of level, you don't want to confuse them with any facts, okay? Because they're convinced this is real. Now, I will give you one example of what I mean by people dropping all semblance of skepticism or critical thinking when it comes to these myths. In a recent online dialogue, I was sent a new official map of the world from 1890 that was intended to show that prior to 1890 and before, a map showed a flat, round Earth. And I have that map, but I'm going to put it up here for you while I keep talking. Okay? The map on the left is what was sent to me, okay? And it shows the map. Now, all flat maps have distortions in them, okay? But I just want you to understand, it didn't take me long to figure out where this map came from. Alex Gleason, in this map, says it's by Gleason, okay? On the very top of it, it may be hard to see on the slide, but you can blow it up when you get my PDFs later. It is Gleason created this map for a book arguing for a flat Earth in 1890. It isn't an official map created by any official thing. It's not there. It was a flat Earth nut who created this map and put it in his book to peddle his theory. It is not official in any sense of the way. But if you can see the lines in the circle, and I'm hoping you can, but I want you to understand that a circle has 360 degrees, right? If you divide, there are 24 time zones in the world. So if you divide by 360, every time zone encompasses roughly 15 degrees of longitude around the world, okay? Now, countries are allowed to set up their own time zones, so they don't all fit neatly in the longitudes. You know, I mean, they all do it. A lot of there's political decisions, right? And what's going on. But this map has the longitude shown on every 5 degrees as it goes around the circle. So each of 3 heavy lines, okay, is 15 degrees. And what you're going to notice is those lines are almost, they come to a point at the very center of the map, and then they get very wide at the bottom of the map where it hits the ice wall on the outside of the Earth. Okay? But what that does, it means that all of South America, all of Australia, most of Africa all fit in a single time zone. All of India fits in a time zone, single time zone. Most of the United States, with the exception of the very western coast of California and a little bit of Maine, all fit in one time zone. You and I know this is not the case. Any of you that have relatives in other areas know there's time zones. I was talking to you about, I'm in Hawaii. There's currently a 2-hour difference between California. When daylight savings starts, it'll be 3 hours, but the time zone difference is 2. It's another 2 hours to get the Neo. So it's a 4-hour difference, right? It's a 5-hour difference from here to my relatives in Massachusetts. So this is, this to be true, that these time zones shown on this map are false. That the longitudes here shown do not match what you can see with your own eyes, what you can experience with your own self. So this is absolute nonsense, but they put it up there. And that's what I'm saying is this person sent it to me as proof that was here. He did nothing to go investigate where this map came from. Is it really official? Did it do that? Who made the map? What's going on? It was set aside all critical thinking to accept something that is easily disproven. Now, it didn't take me hours searching through shelves of dusty libraries to find the origin of this map. It was a 2-minute online search to find it. That book is still available. You can get the book. Okay? It's not some out of print book. This evidence you can verify yourself. Okay? And I apologize again if this scathing review insulted any flat earth believers. But I felt like something more confrontational was needed here. Right? If you want me to take you seriously, don't give me evidence that's the equivalent of showing me pictures of Santa Claus and claiming that he's real. Okay? That's what this is. This is that level of thinking that you're going to tell me, look, I have all these cards addressed to Santa Claus. There's pictures of Santa Claus. I got all this stuff. There's songs written about Santa Claus. Therefore, Santa Claus is real. That's the level of argument that is used by flat earthers. You want me to take you seriously, you got to up your game, because this is total crap, right? And then if you're a Christian, please stop spreading myths that you have no evidence for. Stop it. Stop it with the reptilians. Stop it with this flat earth. Stop it with stuff. We are selling the most incredible story known to man, that God became human, took on a 10 of human flesh, took upon himself our sins, died for us, and then rose from the dead. That is the most incredible story anybody has ever heard. And if you want to be believed in that, you better tell the truth in other things. And if you prove yourself to be a gullible purveyor of myths, why would anybody believe you when you give them your testimony about Jesus? Right? That's the damage this does. Is it ruins the credibility for the gospel. And it not only ruins your credibility for spreading these myths, you paint all Christians as people who are gullible that will believe anything when you spread those myths. That's why this was important to take on, because this needs to stop, people. We need to be diligent in what we say. And truth has to matter to us as Christians. You have to go out there and say, someone wants to tell you something, right? When I first heard that the jab wasn't a real vaccine and wasn't doing this stuff, I looked for the evidence, what it would back that up. And I was convinced by the evidence that I shouldn't take it. When I heard that remdesivir was used to kill people, and there were 2 studies that showed that it actually increased your chance of dying to take it than it did without it, I went and looked up those studies and read them. I found the evidence. I listened to doctors that were saying that. I proved it. There was evidence backing that thing. If a lot of this stuff that we're being told by supposedly people in our community has no more evidence than the claim that Santa Claus exists. And they're spreading it, and it destroys the credibility of Christians everywhere. Okay? And I'm sorry. I know it's a little bit of a rant, and like I said, I apologize. If you take this serious and you think the earth is flat and you think the Bible teaches it, I was torn between trying to handle you in kid gloves and be really nice and keep a polite attitude, or just slamming you to try to knock some sense into you. And I went obviously a different direction. It's not my goal to make you feel bad, but you have been duped. You have been duped with some of the worst evidence I've ever seen. So with that, I'm going to put on a video and try to read the chat, and I'll come back and see you in just a minute, right?
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints, and for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. Peace be to the brethren, and love with faith, from God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Grace be with all them that love our Lord Jesus Christ in sincerity. Amen.
Okay, I'm back. I saw the comment about daylight savings times. I couldn't agree more. There's an old joke about only a white man would think if he cuts off 6 inches from the bottom of his sheet and resews it to the top of his sheet, that he has a longer sheet, right? But that's kind of the daylight savings. It's just it's sad. And one reason that I don't use Honolulu time for my broadcast is because Hawaii does not observe daylight savings time, and California does, and so many other states do, that it would really confuse people as what time I come on. So I just stuck with the Pacific time, which is going to shift for daylight savings. My time here won't change at all, and it's just sad. And I know it's hard. It's hard when people believe stuff that's so nonsensical. It's hard not to talk down to them and to treat them. And I don't want people to treat me that way when I'm presenting Christianity and Jesus. And a lot of critics will start from that thing. That's why I came at it from an apologetics kind of viewpoint, is here's the evidence for I believe in God. Here's the evidence I believe in a resurrection. And because it let me take a stand with people that just dismissed it out of hand. But it is, how much are we going to coddle people in this community that keep spreading nonsense, absolute nonsense, and do it? Because the problem is there's a lot of truth coming out of this community, and that truth is getting diluted with the lies that are mixed in with it. And the people in this community aren't calling the people out who are spreading the lies. And I think it's time somebody has to do it. And these are not false prophets. but this was almost a Prophet Club episode on the flat earth. It really is. It's just like these people are a problem in that they are spreading lies among the community and making us all look like fools. But when you tell me that the Bible teaches it, and I can show, sorry, that you're absolutely destroying and showing an imbecilic level of biblical interpretation in your evidence, then it's hard for me to take any of your other evidence credibly, right? So with that, God willing, I'll be back on Monday. And like I said, I hope to have Foxhole set up over the weekend. If I am, and Rumble, I'll be broadcasting on those two channels as well. But in any way, we will get it going, and let your friends know. And I will see you Monday in the Gospel of John. I mean, God bless you all. And let me find my outro, which I forgot to pull up. And I will see you next time.
Your worries and troubles, fear is not from above. Walk boldly and bless those around you. Exhort mercy and love. Even when the darkness may surround us, He is the Father that won't